This is Hot Dog Hero, a written game about putting ketchup and mustard on hot dogs. How and why did I create this? The game was a submission to the Written Jam, a game jam focused only on the creation of new written games. And having never made a written game myself, I became intrigued. The theme of the jam was every blank, which is equivalent to no theme at all, since you can simply say every time the game starts something happens. But since the jam itself restricts your game's genre already, I think that's fine. I had this idea of putting mustard and ketchup on hot dogs in a similar way games like Muse Dash work, so my interpretation of the theme was every hot dog, I guess. So how do you even start making a written game? How do you get the timing part to work and the different notes, syncing the beats to the music and so on and so forth? Luckily, the channel description linked to a very helpful tutorial how you can easily implement the basics of a written game with Unity. While I explain the gist of it, a time-lapse of hot dog pixel art. The main idea is that you use a Midi-file, a music file that doesn't actually contain audio like an MP3 would, but rather a list of notes to play and when to play them. The written game then reads the Midi file you specifically made pre-hand for a certain song. I used the tool LMMS to create the Midi files for each song, and the game then hands all the notes of the file to each lane. A lane in this case basically handles everything for one note, or to put it another way, each lane is responsible for one button the player needs to press. In Guitar Hero, for example, you have 5 lanes, one for every button on the guitar controller. The lane in a written game then filters the notes of the Midi file and only stores the notes that are assigned to it. In Hot Dog Hero, for example, every A note is a squirt of mustard and every B note is a squirt of ketchup. The ketchup lane then spawns all the ketchup notes you can see moving from top to bottom on the screen right now. Later on, I changed the direction to right to left to maximize the space that can be used to show notes. The disadvantage of this, on the other hand, it's difficult to choose well-suited default controls for the top and bottom lane. In the end, I went with the left and right mouse button. Then I made the mustard and ketchup bottles spawn little droplets of sauce. The problem was that the bottles are directly above each other and I didn't want the sauce droplets to overlap. I also did not want to move the X position of one bottle, because that might have suggested that one type of note needs to be pressed earlier than the other type of note. So what I did was rotate the bottles slightly. Why did I even participate in the written jam? It all began when I got the urge to start working on a game. Well, okay, technically I was already working on the game, but I needed a break from working on the game. I started developing because I needed a break from the game. I started developing because I needed a break from the game. I started developing. No joke, I wish this was a joke. By the way, if you want a slight chance of maybe ever seeing one of those games, consider subscribing or even belling the ring. So I browsed the currently happening game jams. The advantage of a game jam is you have to finish a game before a certain deadline. So even if you think, oh no, my game isn't finished, it's not Polish enough, no one will think it can cook pierogi. Doesn't matter, you have to submit it anyways. And honestly, I need that kind of deadline. And so I found the written jam. There were still 5 days left, so why the hell not? Okay, back to the development of the game. The notes, sauce droplets and hot dogs are basically all created in the same fashion. There's a start and end sprite and a middle sprite. Each object may have any number of middle sprites, that way I can spawn hot dogs, notes and drops that are exactly as long as I need them to be. The only difference is the sauce drop, because at the time of spawning them I do not yet know how long they have to be. So I simply call a method start spawning. With every frame, the droplet checks if another middle part is needed, because the whole drop has been falling down since the last frame. Once the player stops pressing the according button, the game calls stop spawning, and the drop spawns its top part and stops checking if it needs another middle part. Then I exchanged the timing line with these pixel art circles. The player has to press the respective button once the note is in the center of the circle. And I added particles as well. Now you might think the mustard or ketchup belongs on the floor, but that's not the case. Actually, it needs to go on top of the hot dog. I know that's a mistake I myself have been making for years as well. So we need collision. And finally, when a collision happens, we need to add the sauce on top of the hot dog. I also added simple particles that notify the player about the quality of their presses. The only thing that's really missing now, the correct length and timing of each hot dog. And oh boy, this was by far the hardest part of the project. I spent an entire day doing that. I mean, yeah, it probably took me longer than it should have, but it's quite complicated. You see, there are multiple variables involved in the calculation of the perfect hot dog length. You need to know all of these 8 things. How long the hot dog needs to be, when the hot dog needs to be. Fine, that's actually only 2 things. Maybe I'm just dumb, okay? Then we need to merge the hot dogs, because otherwise hot dogs might overlap and we would mostly get tiny wieners, but we want our wieners in all sizes. That also includes long hot dogs. Yes, long hot dogs exist. I mean, who doesn't know this type of situation? You walk into a Subway. Hello, I would like a hot dog, please. Hello, sir, what type of bread do you want? A mile long. What? A mile long. We don't sell hot dogs. So the merging of hot dogs was fun. Not. After like 3 Turing Awards I had written this masterpiece of code. And my whole first day was gone. The submission was on Saturday 8:30 PM and I still needed a menu. So that's exactly what I did on Friday. In the end I went with the name Hot Dog Hero and I also added settings for audio volumes. And I also created a logo for the game. Ha, just kidding, it was trash and I went to sleep. Okay, Saturday, the submission is in less than 10 hours and I still only got 1 single song. Oof. Luckily I did well with the transcription of 3 other songs. I created a little cover image for each song as well. The 4 songs in the final game are Couch Potato, a slow and easy song meant to introduce the mechanics to new players. Trial of Spikes is a little bit faster than the first song, but still has a clear rhythm going on and also some retro vibes. Welcome to the Club is a very diverse track focused on the bassline that has some pretty difficult parts. And finally, Electronic Battle Theme 5. A fast-paced song meant to be played only by the most advanced players, you know, to give those speedrunners a hard time. Then I fixed some bugs, introduced some bugs, added settings so you can remap the mustard and ketchup buttons, and struggled to export the project, but managed to get it uploaded about half an hour before the deadline. The results of the game jam. Out of 92 jam entries, Hot Dog Hero made the 7th place in the overall category and 3rd place in the fun category, which is obviously the most important category. And Hot Dog Hero was the game with the 3rd most ratings. So a great result if I do say so myself. I say so, that's what I'm talking about. So what's my conclusion about the project? It has been lots of fun, but there are a few things that bug me about the project though. In particular 3 points. Bugs. There's a bug where the song doesn't end for whatever reason, and there's a bug where the drop spawn position keeps slowly sinking. Then the scoring system. Unfortunately I didn't have enough time to think too much about the scoring system. Basically in the game you get 15 points times your current combo streak for each perfect hit and 10 points times your current combo for great hits. This means that the system punishes combo breaks in such a hard way that high score hunters basically have to restart a level once they miss any single note. In addition to the combo fiasco, the player is not punished for spamming mustard or ketchup. I don't know if it would be a good idea or not to punish players for spamming buttons. Maybe deducting a few points of the score would already be a good solution. What's your opinion on the scoring system? If you've got any feedback, please leave a comment. I would love to read your ideas how you could improve the scoring system. And finally, song selection. I think instead of Welcome to the Club, a song with a slightly easier difficulty level would have been nice. In addition to the difficulty, the song has such a hard to hear bass line if you're not playing with headphones. Which is a problem since the transcription of the song is based on a bass line. I mean, that's why it's called bass line, right? And while other songs are fine for a written game in my opinion, some parts could have been transcribed in a more intuitive way. For example, the end of Electronic Battlefield 5 feels more like button mashing instead of anything rhythmic. In the end, it's still a cool game though. Oh, and if you haven't already, be sure to try out Hot Dog Hero yourself. It's free and you can even play it inside your browser. If you want to, you can share your high scores on the Santi Games community Discord and try to beat mine. If you are interested in any updates or future projects, please consider subscribing to the channel or following Santi Games on Twitter. Thanks for watching, have a great day.